Welcome to Unmasked. I am Ron Bennington. This Unmasked was put together by HBO and the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival. We did this up in Montreal in front of, they tell me, about 1,000 people. And it was to talk about the season 2 of HBO's Vice Principals. That's premiering Sunday, September 17th at 10:30 on the East. I jumped at the chance to do this because I'm a really, really big fan of the Rough House gang, and that's the group of guys that have started making films together and TV shows together about 8, 9, 10 years ago. And that's Danny McBride, Jody Hill, and David Gordon Green. If you go over to the ibang.com, I talked to them a little bit about what I love about this production team and what they've done. And we've got the three of them on this panel, as well as the cast of HBO's Vice Principals. They're jumping into season 2, and it's just a 2-season show. That's all they wanted to do. That's the only way they wanted to tell this story. But I think it's also taken Walton's career up a notch because everybody's talking about him. And Kimberly Hebert, Georgia King, and Edi Patterson. As a matter of fact, if you listen to this interview, when Georgia King speaks, you could hear this out of the audience because nobody up there knew that she was Scottish. So this is the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival, and Unmasked with the cast and crew of HBO's Vice Principal. It's great to see you guys. Thanks for coming out here to Montreal to do this still.
Yes, thank you.
So 2 seasons and that's it, right?
Yep, unless we rack up some credit card debt and need to go to work again. Yeah. I mean, we're kind of like sad about it because we actually had so much fun making this, and it's been awesome to be able to talk about this show with this cast again, that it would be cool to do it again. But, you know, we set it up as a 18-episode story. So what we set up, we pay off by the end of this season.
Now, when you get to, most people never get a chance to do a television show at all. And you guys have got a hit show, and then you're like, no, that's cool. 2 years is cool. I mean, imagine when you were in college if someone said, hey, you'll turn down more seasons to anything. You never would have believed that, would you?
Yeah. Maybe we're making a bad choice.
This is changing everything.
Well, I have to say, this is probably one of the darkest comedies ever done. As a matter of fact, I will occasionally think to myself, is this a comedy? But how did you guys set it up to push it this far?
I think that we just, we have a very fucked up sense of humor that we don't even think we're pushing it far.
We have a knack for making comedies that aren't really funny, too. They're just sort of like, people are like,
Yeah. Well, most of us, I think, growing up, most of our biggest laughs in film, I always think a lot of times, are in a drama. You know what I mean? So Goodfellas always did that. Pulp Fiction did that. And then comedy tends to be lighter and sillier. But you guys have really, really pulled this in. I mean, the main character gets shot by somebody in a scary mask, and that's the end of the first season. And he doesn't get funny shot. He just gets drilled like you just saw a murder take place.
I mean, we just love to approach comedy like it is a drama. We will actively strip jokes out of the script if it feels like it's too much of a punchline, and that goes to the way that we approach everything with it, from the casting, to the music, to the directing of it. I mean, everything we're approaching it like it isn't light and silly, but it's a serious drama with 2 idiots.
Well, let's talk about the casting.
Wait a minute, maybe one idiot. I don't know. Me,
maybe
I'm the idiot.
Yeah.
At least you wrote it.
He's our one. He's our one.
Yeah. You're scary as shit, dude.
What did you say?
Oh, shit.
What the fuck did you say?
That seriously, that doesn't make you jump. But you know, Danny has always had this reputation with the public as being about as scary as you can go, and then you come on and this thing. I don't know whether I want you guys to be enemies or friends. I don't know which.
Yeah, I feel that way just about Danny. I don't know whether I want us to be
Enemies,
friends.
Walton.
Yeah, man. I mean, just to kind of echo what you said kind of earlier, and I mean, I've been a fan of what these guys have done for a very long time. I mean, going back to Foot Fist Way, right? And the visuals tell the story as much as the words kind of coming out of our mouths. And when Danny talked about the music, I mean, it really kind of is a combination of all of those elements that make their style their style. And and it's just a world that I've wanted to participate in for a very long time. And it just so happened that I got the opportunity to play kind of in this world and just showed up the first day and felt like, I never really wanted to leave.
Did everybody feel like they picked up the character pretty easy from the writing? And I'll start with you too with that, because your character is so dark, but I think as it goes along, we realize that this is a guy who's going from a place of pain, and we don't get to even experience that in a lot of dramas. That we see these guys are pain driven.
Yeah. I think anybody that is marginalized and powerless in their personal life and in their professional life walks around with a lot of anger and a lot of profound kind of insecurity. And I think all of us at any given point in our lives, or maybe just throughout the day, any given day, experience that. And these guys, even kind of going back to Eastbound and Down with Danny's character in that, for me, it was just an opportunity to approach this really as a drama. I mean, I never really looked at it as I needed to perform or to be funny. I just found that the truth in what these guys had written, and that's all that they wanted, and that's all that they ever asked from me. And it just so happened to be, some of the funniest fucking stuff I've ever been a part of. And there were days where there was one scene, like early on in season 1 where I just couldn't look at Dan. I mean, I had to do it with like Danny stand-in or like to the back of his head because it was so funny and it was so real. And I was just telling him like how much I was just gonna fucking I'm just gonna fire you as soon as I get this job. I'm gonna fucking fire you and sell all your furniture, all your stupid and it was just kind of went into this world, and it was really one of the greatest experiences of my life.
Well, David, when you're directing these, do you direct it like a film? Does it feel more like a film than a TV comedy to you?
Yeah, I don't think we would approach anything differently. It's a format that people obviously mostly watch on their televisions and devices and things like that, but we want it to feel like a thorough character experience, a cinematic experience. How we shoot it and light it, we take great care to kind of design a look and an atmosphere and make it feel like something that people want to invest their time in, something that challenges you and has a degree. We give a shit about the way that it looks, and sometimes with comedies, people say, "Oh, just it's broad lighting, it's comedy lighting," or comedy is here, not there. But what we really try to do is just make something that we respond to cinematically. To me, it would be just as much approaching it like a Goodfellas as it would be as if we're trying to make people laugh.
Well, let's talk about casting, because you have put together a pretty tremendous team here. And how did this happen? Let's start all the way down with Edi. Do you guys write with somebody in mind, or does that just happen as it comes along? Did they help create these characters?
They definitely helped create these characters. I mean, we wrote season 1 and season 2 at the same time. So we took a year to write the whole series before we shot anything. And when we were getting close to production, HBO was like, "Well, who are you going to cast? Like, who's Lee Russell?" And it was like, "Fuck, I've never even thought about that." Like, and so, we didn't really write for anyone in mind. We just sort of, wrote these characters. But as soon as we would see, anyone from Edi and Kimberly and George and Walt, we just knew who was supposed to play these roles,
Now, Edi, when you first got this Did you connect right away to this? And how can someone be so crazy and so damn sexy at the same time?
Oh, come on, baby. I mean, that's just kind of my nature, so what's up? Yeah, I did connect with it immediately. I think the scene I came in and auditioned for you guys for was that blowjob in the closet scene.
And how many people did you audition for that?
But yeah, I thought it was kind of all there. Yeah, I thought it was super funny. But like Walt was saying, like, you can just feel, I think you can feel the realness in all of these people and feel that they're coming from like, ooh, some real deep, deep down stuff. So yeah, it didn't feel, none of it felt too crazy to me. Yeah, Miss Abbott's a little crazy, but it didn't feel like, ooh, broad crazy. You know, it felt real and fun.
We knew Edi was the right person for the role because in that audition, after the blowjob, she improv'd, someone's been eating beef jerky. Like, it's pretty amazing. You're hired.
And now, on any other show, I think we would want like Amanda to end up with you, Danny, but I don't know why we do here. Yeah. She seems like a nicer person. She's got pain in her life. Do you want these two to get together next season?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
He's the worst thing for you, though.
The characters are pretty fucked up. Yeah, I think Danny and I, we chatted a lot about making that a real connection and figuring out why you'd want to root for them and fight for them. And I mean, Amanda's got issues. She's got some real stuff going on. And I didn't know from the first couple of episodes that I read that would be the case. And then as I was reading, I was like, oh, shit, okay. I have to learn how to ride a motorbike and also figure out how these two are equally vulnerable and lost. And they have a lot more in common than you might think at first. So it makes sense, the connection.
Do you want to see him with her at the end of this? Do you want to see him?
Danny.
When we approach this, we always like to just, with a lot of the story beats that we choose, we really just kind of like picture like if this was a movie, this would happen. So in this is what should happen. It shouldn't be that.
Yeah.
And so I think we like to fuck with that and play with that. Even the way we present Lee, Russell, and Gamby, it's like you present them as if they're the guys you should be rooting for, and then instantly you show them burn someone's house down.
Yeah.
So you as an audience member are just like, what the fuck? I don't even know who I'm rooting for or what I want to have happen here. And that's, to us, we're just doing that because we don't want the audience to know what's going to happen. And there's so many shows and movies out there, and everyone is savvy enough that you can kind of see those old worn out story tropes like a mile away. And so for us, when we incorporate anything like that into our show, you can basically guarantee that it will not go the way that you're thinking it will go.
But that scene, if everybody can remember, of course, where it starts out with just a small thing and then gets a little bigger and then just goes completely sideways. And you really feel like it's happening to someone's home. You know what I mean? There is you're laughing, but there's a sick feeling at the same time. It's very violent.
It is sick, and when we shot that, it felt that way. Like as it was not even Belinda's house for real. It was a set, you know. And like,
I know.
We're sitting there like, God damn, we just broke this picture of her kids.
Yeah. It's really, and I was even thinking watching this. You would think this would be Belinda's story. Here she is. She's moved to a new town. And there's these two lunatics suddenly stalking her, and this is a horror thriller. And instead, no, it focuses on the two maniacs that are doing this. But did you, Kimberly, when you did this, when you saw that take place, how did that feel?
You know, I knew it was going to happen because I read the script.
Yeah.
So, full disclosure there. You know what? I thought, that's interesting. Because my character doesn't know that they did it.
Right.
Right? So there's this kind of willing suspension, even as the actor, that I'm like, okay, I can't relate to these guys in a way that in any way would signify that Belinda knows. So I thought that was the real interesting piece about it, is that she's like actually trying to find camaraderie, and she's in a place where, you know, her personal life is a wreck, and she's coming to this new school, and she really wants to perform well, and she kind of wants to make friends too.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it wasn't until like, I guess episode 7, 8, whatever the track scene is. when your character says that you burn the house down, that I think Belinda.
I burned your fucking house down. Burned your fucking house down.
And just so you know, I think Belinda responded appropriately by punching you in your face.
Yes, she did.
I think that's what she did. So it was.
She is a badass, and she goes through a lot that year, but she does hold her own. But I know that a lot of people got upset because here's a woman really being attacked by these two guys. It's a tough thing to see.
You know, I love that. I love that it happened, though, because, you know, as a woman, first or second or third or however I identify myself, you know, this happens. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're in a work situation, they may not burn your house down, but they sure as hell make you feel like they will sometimes.
Right.
You know, so I love that Belinda had the opportunity, you know, to be like, look, I can handle it. Because to be honest, I feel like most women are out there like, we appreciate you open the doors for us. Men, still open the doors for the ladies. I like it. But look, I'll kick your ass if I have to. Don't get this twisted. You know, that's the reality. I think women are like, if you want to bring it, bring it. We're going. All this,
yeah.
You know, people are doing crunch fit, and you know, women are. Is that what it's called? Women are really working out and strong. CrossFit. That's what I'm trying to say. Women are strong.
Yeah.
Women are strong.
So, and it's, by the way, you can see, this is why casting is so important. Because you have to have somebody that feels that way to play that part, right? You have to have somebody like, bring it. But what they put you through this season, when you ended up, you know, getting drunk and pissing down the front of a car, rough stuff.
That wasn't even in the script. She just did that.
You know, personal experiences have shown me what could actually work.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that's the thing about their storytelling that I'm so attracted to, and to use that moment really in the episode that you're talking about, you had to go through all of that narcissism and lack of these central characters' ability to empathize with another person, and when they do decide to show genuine empathy from either to each other or to another person, you really feel it. But as far as Belinda Brown goes, for me, she had to go through all of that to be on those tracks and to truly, when I extend the shoe and then throw the shoe away, but for her to be broken and for that emotion, and what Kimberly did with that and what these guys wrote was to give her an opportunity to really see rock bottom for her. And that's when you have an audience. It's like you subjected them to all of this to earn the right to have that moment. Yeah. You know, and I think that's missing, you know, in a lot of things today. I think people sentimentalize, a number of kind of experiences in life. These guys don't, you know, they run away from it only to, when they come to that watering hole, to have earned the right to move an audience in that way.
Yeah, I think that's really well put. And that's what I said. Like, we can see the damage in all the characters, and maybe that's why we don't judge them as harshly as we would if this was a show that was on 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It would certainly be more black and white. But I also think that the central thing is, it really is the American dream, and what happens when you hit a certain point in your life and you're like, man, I've done everything I'm supposed to do, and this hasn't happened for me. Do I fight for it? And I kind of feel like these guys feel like they're in the right for what they're fighting for.
Yeah, I think they definitely feel like they're in the right, and that's sort of the journey they go on, is that they have to question what they feel like they're entitled for and how willing they are to go to the lengths that they have to go to get what they want. And, that's really what's exciting about the second season, is that, they did this whole thing the first season, and the second season is all the effects of it. And Jody and I wrote this as a feature-length script, 12 years ago, and there was something about that just never worked. We loved the first half, but the back half was just shitty. It just was like a conventional kind of comedy. And for us, when we changed it into a TV series, that was what made it make sense to us, was that you really could have time to really let the agony and all of this fucked up stuff that unfolds in the second season just play out and not have to sum it all up in 20 minutes. We were given 9 episodes basically to show the full effects of what they've done.
Yeah, I think a lot of that early criticism was because they see 2 white guys ganging up on a black woman, and they think that we're going to be scoring cheap laughs off that. But I don't think they expected that we would approach it you would try to gain empathy for all of the characters, not just the main ones, not just the victims, not just the everybody. You know what I mean? Like, we try to create them with what Danny's talking about with the extended kind of format. We try to get into them so that you would understand the characters. We were sick of a lot of comedies too when we started out. They have so many jokes, and by the time you get in the second act and the third act, it's like you could give a shit how it ends. I mean, most people can't remember the ending of comedies, where we wanted the endings to be the best part. The thing you couldn't wait for.
Well, when we're talking about being able to emphasize it, even though Belinda is not really a victim, I mean, she didn't buy those biscuits for everybody and then took credit for it.
Right. Yeah.
But she probably paid for them, and it was her idea.
Still, you didn't buy them.
You did name them Belinda's biscuits, in all fairness.
But everybody has had that happen at work. I mean, this really is kind of a work comedy in a way, not unlike The Office. It's a closed world. And that slight got to him. But also, the thing I think that's scariest about the show is that we're all ambitious in one way, but we can see what happens when that gets carried away. You just can't keep treating life as a game that is meant to be won or lost. And I think that's what gets caught up in the central characters.
It gets crazy in the second season with that.
Yeah.
You think the first season was dark?
Yeah. Well, we were talking a little bit. I said that backstage, I was telling them I kind of got the Kill Bill 1 and 2 things, where the kind of the focus changes and you actually learn more about these characters. And I've seen some of the episodes, but honestly, I don't know where it's going. But it has that same feeling of the first season of, could this end real bad right now? In a few minutes, we're going to let some of you folks ask some questions as well. So think about that. But you guys grew up with watching television shows, and even with HBO and cable, we never were going this deep years ago. Where did you feel like you started to earn the kind of freedom that the networks would let you try something like this, that HBO would trust you to run with this show?
That's a good question. We, when Jody and I made the Foot Fist Way, and Adam McKay and Will Ferrell, they saw it, and they were able to get Paramount Vantage at the time to pick the film up, and Jody and I met them for a dinner, and they were just asking, like, what do you guys want to do next? And we said we have this idea for this TV show that we want to do called Eastbound and Down, and it's about this flamed out pitcher, and those guys are both like, man, a TV show, like you guys can make movies now, and that's how much things have changed. At that time, it was kind of seemed like it was a little silly to go back and have made a feature and be able to make features, but want to spend your time making a TV show. And we just had a very specific vision for it. We really wanted to approach it like it was a novel and be able to have these these episodes that can go off on tangents, follow other characters, and we've come up writing screenplays, and there's just so much of a confinement to scripts these days when you have to fit them into 90 minutes, and you see so many movies that it's just hard to figure out how to show people something they haven't seen before in that time period. And so for Jody and I, we were like, a TV show, and we don't even want to make it long. We don't want to make 20 episodes. We want to start with like 6 episodes and see if we can basically just take 3 hours to tell a story. And HBO was cool with it. They didn't like ask us to do more of that season. They didn't tell us to make it really episodic. They're fine with it sort of like continuing. And so that I guess we found success with that. So they never questioned us when it came to vice principals, whether this was the right approach or not.
So you don't get notes on some of these?
We definitely get notes, but at this point we've worked with Casey and Amy, our executives at HBO, so much that we understand each other and they understand our sensibility. And they're actually like, a lot of times you can get paired up with executives that when you see their phone number come up, you want to shoot yourself. You're like, oh, fuck, what do they not like? And these guys are just so intelligent that when they ever had notes about it, it was always, even if we didn't agree about the execution of how to fix the note, it always was rooted in something that did need to be fixed. And so with that relationship, it just made working with them a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's just amazing to me just to realize that in the last 10 years, how much everything has changed. And there's really more critical talk about shows like this one than there are movies at Oscar season.
Yeah, it's like we were always big fans, I'm sure I speak for everybody up here, of like 70s films and these kind of things where you can explore these darker characters, and we all like long movies and this kind of stuff. And you really don't see that at the movies anymore. And like TV is the one place where you can explore characters and really take your time and go to some different places and not have everything be so plot driven and kind of, I can tell whatever a movie's going in the first 15 minutes. I can tell you what the ending is these days. And it's like, I feel like TV is really the only kind of place to like break new ground. I think you're going to see a lot of more kind of changes in format too coming, like different lengths of things, that kind of stuff, how things are presented, So it's really cool. It's actually a really good experience, and it's really a chance to be creative too,
Well, one of the things I think that happened in the 1970s is that they didn't know what to do with films anymore, and they let some young film directors and producers and writers take over. And now I think that there's so many platforms that you can view television that they're like, let's trust some of the creative guys. Who knows how long this will kind of hold, but it's kind of great right now, right?
Yeah.
But does it feel any different for any of you guys now when you're making a film as opposed to when you're making television? Does it change?
I'll jump in on that. Particularly for comedy, it's really difficult because when you're engineering something to, most particularly studio movies that are so expensive to make, and not only to make, even if you make it economically, to market and distribute a film theatrically is really costly. So you do have to engineer it with a massive audience in mind, a massive audience of success. So you may throw some jokes in there that are for them and not them, or those guys and not this guy. And I think sometimes you're just trying to please a lot of people because you need that kind of immediate opening weekend reward, because if you don't achieve that, people are writing reviews of box office as if it matters of whether the movie's any good. Before the movies even come out, they're telling you how much it's going to make, and it's only Wednesday night. Comes out on Friday. When the world of television is allowed to still be a part of culture and conversation and build and expand, and I think that's a really creative place right now to not be so cutthroat and bottom line, but be really open to the creation. And maybe the first episode didn't sink in, and then how many people say, but give it to the third, it really, they give it a minute and they let it breathe. And I think it's really important for an artistic endeavor to not have to say, judge my movie by the trailer and the opening weekend box office.
Right. And if we even think back to some of those classic films, Scorsese's films, I don't think a lot of people went out to see King of Comedy. I don't know if a lot of people went to see Taxi Driver. But those are the films that people have seen 50, 100 times. A lot of those big box office hits, you see it once. It's like a ride. You don't need to go on it again. Well, you just worked with Tarantino pretty recently, right? Right before, I guess?
I did, yeah.
And there's a guy that, I think most people would feel like what is almost the 70s director today. Mm-hmm. How cool was that to be? Well,
I just want to touch on something you said earlier and what David just said, that I think we've just gotten so comfortable in living in a disposable world. You know, like that things are, it's just like what's in my hand and what's shiny now, and what's in my hand and what's shiny now. And that was always, you know, that was the experience of an adolescent, of a 5-year-old. You know, I have a 6-year-old that has a greater attention span than some of the 40-year-old parents that I've met, you know? And that's the thing about those movies in the 70s. And I think that's the thing about, you know, when I started in television, there was The Sopranos and it was The Shield, you know, and I was one of the first, our little group of actors. We were the cheapest show made on television, but we were some of the first. Well, thank you, but I only bring that up because we were feeling it. Like nobody had an opportunity to tell a story over 84 hours before. Like no actor had maybe like a play, but you're doing that play over and over and over again. This was just an evolving. Like, what the fuck is this? Oh my God, who are these people? And that was extraordinary. But you had the feeling then, and you have the feeling in television now, and what these guys do, again, from the visuals to just listen to the music. Listen to the none of that is by accident. You know, all of this is like on purpose, but it's artisanal and it's handmade, and that's, you know, that's what Quentin does. You know, that's what like the best filmmakers do. You know, that are given an opportunity to play kind of in that space. But yeah, man, you know, he's amazing. Isn't it also interesting that you'll never see a great filmmaker who doesn't have a great soundtrack? If you think of all the best filmmakers that we have, you could just listen. Yeah, but because I think they move through life, man. I mean, I know these guys now. I know these guys really, man, you motherfucker, man. Man. No, but like those filmmakers, and you know, look, everything turns them on, man. I mean, I know, like, you know, for Quentin and for these guys, and a number of the other filmmakers that I think we've all had an opportunity to work with or respect and admire, they have a voracious kind of consumption of the world, man. I mean, they consume things, and they're very curious people, and they're moved by music, and they're moved by art, they're moved by culture, they're moved by pop culture. And you know, and they just kind of it's a matter of taking all of that in and then regurgitating that kind of back out into the world, as a strange kind of metaphor as that is. And that was one of the biggest insecurities that I had about working with them, you know, because I felt like they were almost ahead of pop culture, or the things that they were saying was creating the conversation in pop culture. And because I just don't know any of those things, I just don't read, you know, I don't listen to like pop music really kind of in that way, that I just thought I would not get any of their references, like, and I would just get none of their jokes whatsoever. And I just like, I got like 20 like People magazines. I just got like as much of pop culture as I could possibly consume, you know, before kind of coming down and playing with them, just so I could like improvise with some shit that was current. And not like just like Neil Young. You know,
I want to kind of jump in on this conversation about craftsmanship. And I think what I found coming to what was a community that I think Danny, Jody, and David have created is like a level of craftsmanship. Like we're talking about great movies. They are not haphazard in the construction of what they do, and coming in as someone who's a little bit outside of what I consider like the comedy world. Like I feel like this is the comedy world. That's not necessarily where I've come from. So I was a little insecure coming in thinking that, oh wow, you know, you have to have like this kind of sketch comedy, clearly have to improv background. And, you know, it wasn't that. They are really, I think Vice Principals works on several levels because they astutely crafted the characters, and then they allowed people who can inhabit those things as artists to elevate it. And not that it needed to be elevated, but like you could actually inhabit that because, you know, Belinda is not a kind of strong black female trope, right? She has all of this complexity of having her personal life being torn down. And, you know, and as the season goes on, second season, you find out the why, the inner the inner of the character. And so for us, and I'm speaking for everybody, for people who are trying to approach what they do as artists. And I know that can sound cliche, but I really feel like the people who are sitting here are really approaching what we do as an art form. And there's nothing disrespectful about how Danny, Jody, and David gives you the culture and the environment to step in. It's like they have... they care about it. And that was the thing that I was like, oh gosh, I'm getting ready to do this with Kenny Powers. But it's not, he's so not like that.
Every woman says that.
No.
Oh God, I'm getting ready to do this with Kenny Powers.
But what you guys don't know is that Danny's a tremendous actor. He's not Kenny Powers. So he's actually acting like that in such a way that we all feel like this dude has to be that. Yeah. And so that's what I want to say. I know we're talking about like this greater conversation about pop culture and great movies, but I think at the core of it is craftsmanship. And these guys are artisans, and they really created a space for all of us to walk in creatively as artists to kind of be terrified and overjoyed, overwhelmed. I actually hated episode. Yes, Jody, you remember how I hated that episode, but to be courageous enough, like it's safe enough that you can be courageous enough to kind of, okay, that's the edge, I guess I'm going to jump, because these guys are like, we got you.
And this was the dream from the beginning, I guess. As you're a young actor, this was the exact thing that everybody wants to.
Young.
Yes.
Young.
But I mean, starting as a young actor, you're like, this is exactly.
I have to say, just coming as a woman in an industry, particularly comedy, and I just have to go there. As a woman, as a black woman, I was like, oh gosh, this is going to be interesting. But when I read Belinda, I was like, oh, they went in. Like they're really, they cared about her too, like in a way that I would care about her. Like I'm very much not about creating or thinking about images of women or images of people of color in this kind of perfectionist kind of way. It's like, let's see the fallibility, let's see that. And so I was horrified and terrified, but I was also like, what a real opportunity to inhabit a person who, like, I'm personally, as Kimberly, reading it and going, Belinda, please beat their ass, please beat their ass. It's like personally cheering for the character that you're going to play. And also, like, when you get to the point where you have to let her fall, like, in my mind, as the person who will have to be there, like, oh gosh, she's gonna have to, oh, look, she's falling, oh, I feel bad. It's like feeling a way about it. But, like, having that satisfaction that there wasn't this kind of magical Negro-ness about her, that she somehow overcame it. And, no, she got fired. She pissed on a car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have it on a video. That's how that has to happen. So
yes, I did get it on video.
And you threw the shit.
I got it all on video.
It was huge for me because, I'm coming in. They created in one season a character that I don't know if I'll ever see again. As a woman, as a black woman, I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever see it again. And so I'm really just, I'm still honored. I love them. I'm getting emotional. And so it was a real big
That's great.
deal. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
That episode, didn't they just take you out and have a GoPro? Wasn't that just like Kimberly was out and you just had a...
Yeah. That's all me. It's all improv.
Well, I think the thing that happened with you guys over the last 10 years, and since we were talking about music, but the Rough House gang there, it did remind you of when a new band comes on the scene, like the White Stripes or whatever, where you just start to pick up, like in the first album, you're like, oh, this is kind of the sound, but then you're watching that band get bigger and trying more things. And I think that you guys have been able to pull that off. Was that something that you wanted to do or once the opportunity hit, you guys just kept pushing it out there?
You know, I met Jody and David my freshman year of college, and, you know, we were at this little art school in North Carolina making films someone went there. But it was far outside of where movies were made, and, you know, I had never even been to Los Angeles at that point. And so there was just this camaraderie that sort of was built at that school where we just felt like outsiders, and the only way we were going to get stuff done was if we kind of banded together. And I think once we started like working, that keeping that bond became very important to us, of like the idea of how different, all the different types of tones and genres that we're into. And when we worked on Eastbound together and everyone was able to sort of participate in that, it was just so much fun. It was way more fun than showing up on another movie with people you don't know. You know, it was just awesome to work with guys that you've known since you were a teenager. And so I feel like we just have always wanted to kind of nurture that and keep that going. And that's what Rough House has sort of just become, our company. It's just a place where we can still talk about the films we like and talk about the scripts we like and try to help each other get these things made. Yeah,
and I'm just extremely grateful to be able to work with our friends, but also now be able to like make films and help guys coming up that, like, you know, wouldn't have the opportunity to maybe make some of the weirder films that they want to make, and like some of these kind of just crazier low budget things. And I'm really proud of like the films that we've like either put our name on or like help kind of come up. So
other than being tilted, other than being a little different from what else we see out there, is there something that you guys are always looking for? Because I would say all of your films feel different than any films that we see anywhere else. Is there a thread that runs through that?
I feel like it's always a little outsider. You know, if you look at the films outside of the shows we've done, like the films over the last year, Donald Cried is an amazing movie with the vulnerability of kind of a fringe character, or Hunter Gatherer is the same, or we have a new movie coming out called Davion that's coming out, and it's in that the cast of that is the Bloods from Little Rock. I mean, it's a really interesting, if you look at not just are they low budget kind of fringe movies, but they're movies about outsider characters trying to find their place in their community. And I think that's something that we're always just drawn to, because, you know, from who we were as kids to the film school we went to the industry we work in and thrive in, fortunately, we're always a little on the outside looking in.
I guess that's what I was talking about when I was saying that you guys remind me more of a band, because, you know, the Talking Heads or whatever met at a college, or REM, and then they had these long runs of just doing something so different, but it's because I think they understood each other somehow.
I think having a large group helps that. I mean, some of my heroes, you know, Hal Ashby, these Coppola, you know, these guys, they have about 10-year runs and then they're about done. And I think that like we're all around each other to keep ourselves in check and help each other along the way. It just makes us stronger to have some numbers. But, you know, Danny plays so many assholes, but it doesn't seem like you've fallen for it in real life. It seems like you're still working as hard as you were 10 years ago.
For sure. I mean, like, I'm the first person that will get sick of myself. So I want to always make sure that, you know, I didn't have any intentions on being an actor. I met these guys at film school and was there to direct. And so weirdly, when I started getting film roles, it just sort of turned into like, I'm going to take this role because I'll get to see how this director works, or this director. And so it kind of became that, like going out, using yourself as a mole to go out and spy and see how the other guys like do it. This is how Ridley Scott's doing it. We'll use this shit next time.
I also think, though, that if you follow along, there's something in the zeitgeist, if you see what America is now, that you guys tapped into pretty early on. And I mean, if anybody's watching CNN lately, it seems like a dark comedy that you guys have made. It's really funny stuff, but at the same time, you're like, man, I hope this doesn't turn out bad, you know? Hope we all don't go down that. Have you guys picked up on that? I'm sure that more people see this as a political film, television show than you're comfortable with.
You know, it was interesting. You know, like what we said, we wrote this script 12 years ago. So At that point, I think Donald Trump hadn't even been on The Apprentice yet. Maybe he had been. I can't remember. But so when the show came out and it started to get all these parallels of like what was happening politically, that was never an intention of ours. We were just sort of writing just about human nature and about, these petty people that get into a position of power and how they abuse that. And so it really, I think we were writing more about just man as opposed to writing about politics.
Right.
And then I think you're just kind of seeing how the world is unfolding now. But it was even funny just because even the second season, when you sort of like look at the news for the last few months, it's like, shit, this second season plays out pretty much exactly how things are playing out right now. We'll get more comparisons.
It is amazing, though, isn't it? It's got that feel. And who knew that you'd ever, if you went to the bathroom, wanted to pause CNN now, so you wouldn't miss anything by the time you got back. All right, we promised some of these folks that they could ask some questions, so let's jump around. If we've got somebody with a mic, we'll have that. But the second season of Vice Principals starting soon. We got the mic over there? Here we go.
Hi, just want to thank you for your work. It's amazing. Great show. Love it. I just want to know, did you have to call Bill Murray's infamous phone number, and what was it like to work with the legend himself?
We didn't have to call the phone number because I got his email.
But that was a secret you guys were able to keep, right? I mean, that was pretty much a shocker in the first episode, and you're just like, damn, Bill Murray is part of this cast. They lied.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. I worked on 2 movies with him, 2 movies that people universally loved, Aloha and Rock the Casbah. I mean, people just flipped out for both of those films. But I was able to strike up a friendship with him on that, and we went down to Charleston to scout Charleston for Vice Principals, and we got on the plane, and then I just heard someone call my name and looked over, and it was Bill Murray, and we're like, oh, that's crazy. Oh, yeah, he lives in Charleston. And so on the flight from Charleston to Atlanta, we just sat there with Bill Murray, and he just pitched us for an hour why we should shoot in Charleston. And when it was done, we're like, yeah, I mean, if Bill Murray thinks we should shoot here, why wouldn't we shoot in Charleston? And so then once we came down to Charleston, we were like, well, he got us to come here. The least he could do is show up for a day to be in it.
But I guess there's no amount of success that ever prepares you for hanging out with Bill Murray, right? I mean, that still stays surreal.
Yeah.
Next question. Who do we got?
Hi, big fan. So you said that you first wrote this 12 years ago as a film. And when I watch this, it's so now, it's so present. How did you get motivated to release it now? Like, because you couldn't have known. So why now? Why here? Why now?
It really just had to do when we were done with Eastbound and Down. We just wanted to do another TV show, but we didn't want to just like write something open-ended. And so Jody and I were kind of looking at each other of what we were going to get into next. And this script was just something that always spoke to us. We always, even though we had never cracked it as a feature, we just felt like the characters and that it was relevant, that it would resonate with people, that like what we were exploring did matter. And so that was why we decided, to go ahead and jump onto that next.
And Danny's really the one who like pushed for all that. He ran the writer's room every day and just really was like in there making it happen. In terms of political stuff, we don't really, get into that too much, but that was kind of the genesis of it and why it happened.
Over here now. Let's take somebody on this side.
Walton, you're one of my favorite actors. Shane Vendrell from The Shield was friggin' awesome.
Give this man 2 microphones. Give him 3 microphones. Here you go. Keep talking.
But I want to talk to Danny and specifically,
you're welcome,
Kenny P. Kenny Powers.
Unbelievable.
Kenny, I know you're a boob man, and my girl Michelle wants to meet you. Are you up for it?
What are you asking me to do to her?
Whatever you want. Give her the Kenny Powers treatment.
Walton, your second favorite actor, will do it, I think.
Your second favorite actor. Dude, they're not going to do a pilot with you. Stop it. Sit down. You're scaring everybody. That's
amazing. That's amazing.
That was one of the great questions of all time. All right, over here.
One's most valuable asset is their time, and there's so much media out there. So this question is really for Jody, because I watched the first few episodes and I thought, what am I wasting my time with? A total asshole and a regular asshole. So you really drew us in to the right amount of time where I was like, fuck the show versus I can't wait to watch the show. So I commend you for that, and I guess just how did you think about that?
Yeah. I don't know if I did. I just kind of. No, I mean, when did that happen for you?
The third episode. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, we try to I guess balance the like shock humor with like the caring and all that stuff. So I was hoping it happened at the end of the second, but I guess the third's pretty good. So give a B minus maybe on that. I don't know.
I think we're learning that you guys have the scariest viewers in the history of television. Like doing a show at a prison. Let's try somebody in the middle. Let's try to find a psycho over here. Who do we have? Yeah, this guy from wrestling. Go ahead.
It is. I've become a fan of all of you over time, just for various bodies of work. And Walton, you are one of my favorite actors. Sorry, Danny.
Now you want to talk to Danny.
No, I want to talk to you, brother.
That's cool.
I want to talk to you. Could you please, a bunch of people in this audience, especially my girlfriend, could you say Raylan for me?
Hello, Raylan.
There you go. Awesome, brother. And also, I mean this in the most respectful way possible, and keeping with the vice principal's expect the unexpected. Can y'all go fuck yourselves? Thank you.
Amazing. That's great, man.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I am a vice principal, so thank you.
Jesus.
So just wondering if that's just a vehicle to tell this story, or is there something about education and this career that draw you to it?
You know, I was a substitute teacher for a while when I failed at being a screenwriter in LA. I moved back to Virginia and was living at my parents' house and substitute teaching at the high school that I graduated from. And it was a very dark time for me. And I would go into the class and basically just tell the kids, like, look, I'm not like the rest of these teachers. I got real goals. I got real plans. I'm trying to get out of this shit. But I feel like the biggest thing for me about that was when I got to when I had a planning period. I'm like, what do I do in the planning period? Like, whatever you want. You can sit in the class. You can go back to the teacher's lounge. I'm like, I can go to the teacher's lounge? And so I remember going in there and just listening to what everyone was saying, this is fucking incredible. These people want to be here less than the students want to be here. And I just started to see the dynamics of how it all worked. It was this whole other world happening that outside of the students that seemed so much more interesting than what the students were dealing with, that it just, to me, seemed like the perfect sort of setting for a story to unfold.
And I had really never thought about this till I watched, but I don't think I've ever met anyone who said, oh, we had such a great vice principal at my school. It's kind of design job that everyone's supposed to hate. The kids hate them, the parents hate them. And am I right about this, or do you feel kind of... Yeah, everyone loves you. Yeah, because everyone loves being suspended and having their weed taken away. They're the no fun guy of every school. All right, let's find another scary person to talk to. Yeah, what's that? I have a real question. I'm not scared. You're not scared? Then we're going to move beyond you then and look for the next one. I like the idea of a freak show going on.
Well, okay. First of all, thank you guys for setting so much in the South and for finding actors that are Southern so that we don't have to listen to terrible accents all the time. How important is sense of place when you're writing these shows? Do you think about that, or is it just because it's what you know?
We totally think about it. I mean, if we were to write this show in New York, and I've never lived for long periods of time in New York, I think we would just be pulling from what we've seen in movies, and with us being from the South, it's like we just have an infinite knowledge of what sort of stuff you could pull from, of the ordinary. And I think with Eastbound and this, you're dealing with these large characters, and so we kind of found out with that comedy that if you put them in heightened settings, the whole thing just kind of becomes a little stupid. That the more realistic the world it takes place in, the more you can nail that realism, then the further these characters can go and still have it be watchable. And so for us, it was like we just know how to paint the South, and so we like it. And we also just like the kind of extras you get in the South, too. You don't get these little asshole kids in Burbank that are like putting on a Southern accent and trying to be cute. You just get these little dipshits that flick you off when you tell them to like hit their mark. It's cool. It's good.
What part of the South are you from, man?
I'm from Georgia. We're actually not far from where Walton is from, I believe. You are from Georgia, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I am.
So we live in Marietta. We live in
live in Marietta? Yeah,
we
yeah,
do.
yeah.
So.
Yeah. My grandfather lived in Smyrna. We lived West Side, Lithia Springs, Douglasville. I know Marietta very well. Look at you.
He rarely leaves Hollywood
I know,
these
we're all
days.
the way
Just a couple
up
of
here.
peaches.
But I know, right? But no, we love you guys, and we think that your treatment of the South is awesome because you do capture a lot of the weirdos that live down there.
You're welcome.
That's amazing.
But that is amazing if you really think of how few things have taken place. You know, the Andy Griffith Show was, back in the 60s, but it's very rare that things are set in television there that aren't two-dimensional.
Yeah, that's what we always would encounter is that a lot of the stuff, especially comedy set in the South, would really sort of be it wouldn't really be a full representation of what the South that we knew. It was kind of but just filled with cliches. And so we thought there was funnier stuff to make fun of than guys in overalls. It was like, it's funny to make fun of a strip, like a strip mall that has a Taekwondo studio and a tanning salon next to it. Like, that's the South that we like, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's roll the dice. Try this again. How about this gentleman right here with his hand 7-8 feet in the air? Go ahead, stand up, sir.
Thank you. Just to move off topic for a bit, I'd just like to know if Jody has anything feature film-wise in the works, and also if I could ask, or if you guys can talk about Halloween.
We finished a movie called The Legacy of a White-tailed Deer Hunter. It stars Danny McBride over here and Josh Brolin, and that'll be coming out sometime. It's coming out soon.
Yeah. And Halloween, is that...
Yeah, David and I are doing that. David's going to direct, and we got a script that we love, and yeah, we're stoked. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Anybody else got anything they want to plug? Anything coming up? That's it.
It's been a rough year.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of...
We're hoping the second season turns it around for these guys.
Gets a little buzz going. Anything, Walton? You got anything to plug coming up?
Yeah. I have a lot coming up. I'm excited. Yeah, I've got some. I'm gonna Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider's coming out, and then Maze Runner, which is cool. I'm just going for that, and I'm about to do Ant-Man. So if you guys are fans of Ant-Man.
Very, very cool.
And I'm trying to get into Halloween. I just want to be the
Trying to get into Halloween.
I want to be Michael Myers.
Yeah.
I just don't want to talk for a while. I just want to get paid. I don't want to talk. I just want to be able to fucking walk and just go. This is my audition for that right now.
All right, we got time for one more question before we wrap this up. And you guys have been great today. Yeah.
Hi, how you doing? There's a fine line between doing a really good dark comedy and a melodrama. Have you ever filmed or written anything while making this show where you felt you crossed that line and ruined the tone of the show?
Wow. All the time.
Yeah.
We honestly, you do it all the time. It's like we don't censor ourselves because we're afraid that we might, because it might come out right. I mean, we are constantly finding that tone. It might be in a take that we push it too far and we all kind of look at each other and be like, this one, let's pull back, or it might be in the edit. But I think that's just all part of the process. If you're going to really try to thread that needle, you have to know that you will sometimes fuck it up or go too far or not go far enough. But that's part of the beauty of working with all these guys, is that we all sort of know what we're aiming for. So there's other eyes there to make sure that it's not, falling one way too much.
And honestly, I think it's going to fail half the time anyway. It's just always surprised when somebody watches it.
Well, I will say this. You guys are just on the trapeze every day, though. You're not taking it You're not taking it light, and you're not playing it safe. The second season is coming up. Vice Principals, everybody. HBO, unbelievable that they backed this show. Let's hear it for these guys. Vice Principals.